Okay, so today we're going to be doing composite areas, which basically means you are finding the area of more than one shape. Okay, so on this example 1, there is no formula for this shape, but we could cut it up into other shapes that we do know how to recognize. And for the most part, it doesn't really matter where you cut the shape up as long as you can find all the measurements that you need in order to find the area of that particular shape. So I'm looking at this as, and I can divide it into a whole bunch of shapes if I wanted to. I'm trying to do the least number as possible. So I know that this length is 11. I don't have this, and I don't have this. So I'm going to start off by dividing it into different shapes. So if I divide it there, okay, so it's kind of like if you are maybe putting carpet in your bedroom, and maybe this is your walk-in closet. Okay, we really don't want to purchase all of this extra carpet. We want to purchase only what we need. So do I have enough information or enough dimensions right now to find the area of this first shape? And I'm going to call that area 1. So area 1, I have a 7 and a 5. It's a rectangle, so I'm going to do 7 times 5, which gives me 35, remember, feet squared for area. 35 feet squared. So on this one, I've really screwed things up because I don't have any of my measurements because 11 is for the whole thing. I just need this much of it. So what I'm going to be looking at is, can I get that information from other measurements? So if this much of it is 5, that means this is also 5. Then how much would I have left here? So that means this piece here is going to be 6. So if this is another rectangle, I'm going to call that area 2. It's another rectangle. So I know it's 6 feet high, so how long is it? So I'm going to go back and look at all my measurements this way. If this much of it is 7, so if this is 7, then this much of it is 7. This much of it is 6, so that means I can carry my 6 up here. So this is 7 feet this way, another 6 feet this way. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Gives me a total of 13. So I'm looking at 13 times 6 gives me 78 feet squared. So the reason why it's called a composite is because we are now going to add both of those up to get our total, which would be 8 and 5 is a 3, 13, so carry the 1, 10, 11. So 113 feet squared would be the answer to that composite shape. Example 2, same idea. We do not have a formula for this, but I can clearly see in this one I have a rectangle and I have a triangle. So do I have enough to fill out this one? I have an 8 high, 10, so I do have enough here. So area 1, I'm going to say is 8 times 10, which gives me 80 centimeters squared. So then that makes this area 2. So if this much of it is 10, then that means this is also 10. If this is 8, that means this is also 8. Okay, so now I have one side of my triangle. The whole thing is 14, and this much is 10. That means that the other piece is going to be 4. And if I remember right from area of a triangle, the base and the height are the two sides that form the right angle. So here's my right angle, so there's an 8 and a 4. So it is 1/2 the base, which I'm going to say is 4, times my height, which is 8. I'm going to do some canceling. I can put it all in my calculator, and I get 16 centimeters squared. Add those up, I get 96 centimeters squared. Okay, so these are adding the parts, okay? If I go on here, I could do the same thing with the adding, or I could look at it a little bit differently and say, you know what? If I were to complete this figure, this looks like a rectangle minus this triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract my parts instead. So I'm going to find the area of the rectangle, which is 15 times 8. And I'm going to subtract the area of my triangle, which is 1/2, the base. So I'm going to go ahead and, so you can see what I'm doing, the base would be this piece. And if it's 8 inches over here, then this must also be 8 inches. And I got to find my height, which would be that piece in there. Well, I am given the height of 7. Turn my figure back around. So 1/2, my base, which is 8, times my height, which is 7. Do the math. I'm going to get 15 times 8 is 120. Minus 1/2 of 8 is 4. 4 times 7 gives me 28. So 120 minus the 28 gives me 92, I believe. I check my math this late in the day. So 92 inches squared. Okay, so notice what I did there is I found the big area minus this hole or minus this cutout piece. So notice how it's cut out here, whereas in example 4, it actually is a hole in the figure. So think of this maybe as I want to tile this kitchen floor, so that's the shaded piece, but I'm not going to tile where I have a big island in my kitchen. Okay, so I don't want to pay for that extra tile. So again, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a big rectangle. I'm actually going to write big rectangle. And I'm going to subtract. It sure looks like a square, but it's a 2 and a 3 measurement, so I know it's not a square, so it's going to be the little rectangle. Okay, so the big rectangle is going to be 8 times 6, so base times height, minus my little one, which is also base times height, which is 2 times 3. So I have 48 minus 6 gives me 42, and my unit is inches. Because it's area, it is going to be squared. So that is what composite shapes look like by cutting and adding and subtracting.